Excited to welcome this speaker to the stage. She is a seasoned educator, and I say that because she has taught public, private, and online, and has homeschooled, is homeschooling her own four children. So I am so excited to get into all things gifted and little with Melissa Muir. Welcome to the stage, Melissa.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you. Like we were talking just a little bit ago about how this is not a topic I've really had people talk about. So I'm very excited to get your perspective on giftedness in little children. And to kick off, what are some ways does giftedness appear for young children?
Sure. Well, I think the important thing to kind of address before we even get there is like, we all have this preconceived notion, perhaps, of what we remember the gifted kids in our schools. I went to public school my whole life. So I knew, those classes, that track, it's for the gifted kids, right? So I want you to kind of throw that out the window for just a second, because there's so much more, and the definition is so much more broad. So the first question we might ask is, are my kids gifted? Is this kid gifted that's sitting in front of me? So if we want to kind of identify this, we might look to a few different places. You might start Googling. Some of the things you might Google at first: gifted programs, gifted and talented education. Here are some things that might pop up. GTP, gifted and talented program, or GTE, gifted and talented education. And sometimes they sneak the A in there and they call it GATE, G-A-T-E. So if you're searching for things and those acronyms come up, that's what they mean. You might also see something called 2E, which is twice exceptional. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but that's something to keep in mind as well. So if your child has some other sort of exceptional learning need, be that ADHD, dyslexia, that sort of thing, can absolutely be paired with giftedness. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, I'm going to list about 6 types of giftedness here, but one of the great resources is davidsongifted.org. So if you guys are watching this, jot this down, davidsongifted.org, fantastic resource, lots of great blog posts, lots of good information. But some of the ways that we can see giftedness in little kids, these are successful gifted kids. These are the box checkers. You mentioned this may have been somebody in the room right now, somebody who is just going to check the boxes, get it done. I've done what you've asked. Have I gotten my A+ yet? Right? Have I gotten, and for our little kids, right? We might think of it as an older thing, but for our little kids, is it, hey, are you going to clap for me? Hey, do I get a sticker? Hey, do I get a treat for finishing this thing really quickly and really well? Eyes out for that. The next one is challenging, a challenging gifted kid. This is the kiddo who is bored. They are going to question your authority. They are possibly neurodivergent. They are not happy with what you've given them, this worksheet that you thought, oh, they're going to be great at this. They are having none of it, and they would like to demonstrate their learning in another way, please. That's one way. Underground gifted kids are the kids who don't want to be seen as gifted. And here's where I think, as homeschoolers, we have an advantage, because hopefully the community that you're surrounding your gifted kiddos with is going to celebrate this instead of talk it down. A lot of times this looks like Katie from Mean Girls. Remember that movie? Katie is the math genius, but she is going to play it down because she does not want to be seen as somebody who's really good at math. So
that right there, that is my friend Autumn. That was her. She was brilliant at math, and she hated that she just got it.
Yeah.
And was just like,
So what do we do there? We need to figure out ways to celebrate them. Find them community where they're going to be celebrated and where it's cool to be smart. Okay. So I'm going to keep in mind dropouts. Again, not so much in the littles department, but this is something that we want to be aware of, because we don't want them to be bitter or angry as adults. We might know some adults like this who are like, I was so good at this, but I had this teacher who didn't believe in me. This teacher who told me something. We might see the opposite, where there was a teacher who said, hey, you're good at this. Hey, I think you're going to do this really well. See the difference? So if we can celebrate those gifts, and when we identify them, especially as parents, or if we're tutoring, or if we've got a co-op action, there's lots of different ways that we can speak into these gifted kids. We've also got double labeled kids. So we mentioned 2E before. That just means twice exceptional. And exceptional, yay, that was an exceptional play. Sure. but it's also exceptional as in there are things that are different about you that we need to address. And it's not bad, not exceptionally good either, but are things that we need to address, okay? This might be a physical disability or difference, an emotional difference or disability, some sort of cognitive disability or divergence, things that we need to keep in mind. All of these things can go hand in hand with giftedness, and it should be met with the appropriate action in terms of their academics. And finally, autonomous. Autonomous gifted kids are self-motivated, and they will go off on their own, and they will do the thing, and they will succeed, and they'll be great. There are still things that we need to do to support them, check in with them, make sure everything is fine. But that is another way that this can kind of play out. So anything come up out of those 6 that you're like, heck yeah, I see this, or anything
you know,
your mind
what really stuck out for me were the the neurodivergent kids who were like, I need this in another way. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones that end up being labeled as bad. Mm-hmm. And there's no such thing. There's no such thing. They need it in a different way. And I love that you are pointing out and highlighting for parents so they can see that this is a gift right here. And it's an opportunity for me to really lean in to what my kid needs and support them. So I absolutely love that.
And we're going to get into that in a little bit with some of the ways that we might do this in a homeschool day. But even those 6 places have kind of layers, and there are giftedness in different areas too. So I might throw out a few more areas of giftedness. Here are a few, and they can overlap, okay? Intellectual. So those kids who just can talk your ear off about all the facts and trivia and stuff that they know. Academic. They are able to navigate the academic system really well, and they're able to kind of decode what school looks like, or what that textbook or what that workbook looks like. Creative giftedness. So they are able to, not just artistic, that's actually another area of giftedness, but creative giftedness would be creative problem solving. These are your engineers, your sciencey kids who are just asking all the questions and they want to creatively solve a problem. You got your artistic kids, so these are your little musicians, your painters, your drawing buddies who just want all the creative outlets. And then also leadership. Leadership is a gifted area, and I think we can all agree that we need some gifted leaders at this point in the world. And so there are so many things that we can do to kind of identify. But when you think about your kiddos, for those of you who are watching this, who are thinking, how am I going to guide my kiddos? Please think through these areas and think, okay, right now I see this. We don't want to quash any of it. We just want to present opportunities. Just open that door, see what happens. So that's kind of how it can present itself. And I've seen this in a few of my kids too, but it's just something to kind of keep your eyes open.
Honestly, when you mentioned leadership giftedness, I automatically thought of this little girl I taught years and years ago. And I watched her organize the rest of the class. They were into voting blocks. And I was just like, and it was something that never would have happened had we not followed their lead and what they wanted to talk about. But I was just amazed. I thought, wow, okay. She organized them and they followed her lead. She was able to negotiate. And I thought, oh, wow.
You see it. You can't unsee it. You're just like, you are amazing. And then
5 years
into it. Lead into it. Oh, amazing.
You know, I love it. So there's one thing I wanted to ask you, because it's, you know, we love, it makes us feel safer when we can label things. But how do grade levels and standards and rigid curriculums that keep you in shackles, hurt gifted learners?
Yep. Okay. So this is probably the thing that I love seeing, and the thing that makes me cringe a little bit from families that I talk with. So there is this, hey, my 5-year-old just finished all of the kindergarten stuff that I bought for her, and now what do I do for the rest of the year? It's January. And you're like, what do I do? Do I move on to first grade? No, that's for the No, that's for the 6-year-olds, right? No, my friend, no. Age is not a deciding factor in this. Grade levels are subjective. And my advice is to just open the doors and let them fly. Now, for the person who was kind of like me, when I started homeschooling, I wanted to do school at home, which as we go along, everybody's going to do that nod. Yep. We all know that. We've been there. We want to recreate the day and it's just not going to happen. So let it go sooner rather than later and we'll all be better off for it. Okay. All right.
Right.
Once we let go of that, the standards can be a helpful guide. Okay. Now, when we talk about standards, a lot of us will think of Common Core. I'm from Virginia, so I think of the Virginia standards of learning. Texas has its own as well. So wherever you are, figure out what you want to use. I really like Virginia's because they seem pretty rigorous. Others will find a lot of help in Common Core. And so it's fine. Print them out. Have them nearby. If it helps you, just check it off. And this might be a helpful exercise for people who are saying, okay, my kindergartner finished everything in January. What do I do? Just check through. Don't quiz your child. Just think about how they got through their work, the conversations that you had with them. Do they really understand upper and lowercase letters? Do they really understand what this blend sounds like? Do they really understand what these numbers represent? Or do they just know how to count to 100 really fast? And it's very impressive. So getting through those things, because you might do a second round. That's not bad. That's not bad. I use the same kindergarten book 3 times for my preschool 3, 4, and 5. And by the time they're done with that, they're ready for first grade. And they're 5. And that's fine because they are dominating all that stuff. But we've done it in these spirals. So consider that. Spiral it up, make it a little bit more complex, add in a few things. And I'll give you an example in a little bit of how this can go. But figuring out these little wormholes, things that are really exciting for your kiddo, follow it and then branch out from there. That is a way that you can go from the boring standards or the workbook that you got or that printable curriculum you got, and then kind of branch out. And this doesn't have to be expensive or some massive curriculum program. Go to Teachers Pay Teachers, click free, and search what you need. Get what you need from there and grab it. And then from there, figure out where your child needs to go. So get off my expensive curriculum soapbox.
I love the soapbox. You're preaching to the choir right here.
Fantastic. All right. Now, with gifted learners, we especially need to be flexible here. Grades can vary among subjects. So we might have a reader. Gifted kids tend to read quicker because they're just curious about it. They want to know what the sound makes and why these letters go together. So they tend to read earlier. Let's go with that. They're reading at a first, second grade level, but they're 5 years old. Okay. Does that mean math is also at a first or second grade level? Heck no. Heck no. Take a chance and, go through those same steps. Spiral it, see how it works. Give them lots of different opportunities to interact with it as well. Like we mentioned those 5 areas of giftedness. I'll repeat them in case you guys didn't take notes before, but intellectual. Are they putting these concepts together really, really easily in their minds? Academic. Are they just able to cruise through the tasks that you've given them because they're good at it? Give them another angle at the same stuff. Creative. Are you giving them the chance to solve a problem with this type of concept that you're teaching them? I often revert back. I've actually got it right in my sightline because this is where I teach usually. Bloom's taxonomy of thinking. Maybe you guys remember it. It's harkening back to college or whatever. But at the top of that period, it goes from remembering, understanding. Okay, I remember the facts. I remember the letters. I understand the sound they make. Apply. Yes, I can read this word and apply that phonetic sound there. Then we're going to analyzing. Oh, but in this word, it's different. Why is it irregular English, right? And then we get to evaluate, right? Oh, I read this word wrong. Why did I read it wrong? Oh, the E is still making it. It's just one of those crazy words that doesn't follow any of the rules, right? And then create. I want you to write your own word. I want you to create your own scenario here. So taking up the complexity because they can handle it. They are gifted little kids. And even if they're not labeled gifted, they are still doing this little scientist moment in their lives where they're trying things out. Does this work? Does it not? If I do it 5 more times, is it going to work or is it not? So they're pushing these boundaries, and in their different subjects, you're going to have to kind of figure out what works with them and what doesn't, and be flexible, because these rigid curriculums, they are not for gifted kids. They are not doing any favors for gifted kids.
They don't do favors for anyone, especially you. If you are trying to teach a gifted child, they will push back against you because they need something different. That's just how it's going to be. And the pushback may not look like I can't do this, I don't want to. It may be a quiet, just shut down, and you can't get them to do anything.
Yeah.
So
And that's
the
the
idea of being
quashing that we don't want to see. You are quashing that that spirit in them that we just really don't want to. And so it's a beautiful thing when it sings. And then when it's defeated, you see it. And it's a really sad thing.
And we won't have that though, because we have the parents who are here watching, who are getting
Mm-hmm.
all of this information, who understand how giftedness is showing up in their child and how, the standards are a guide. And I always say that standards are always just a guide. Your child is the center of all of this, and they can be the driving force, but that it's good to have those standards so you know what you're trying to where you're trying to go. I called it like your roadmap. Okay, this is where we need to get to. Great.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how fast or slow we get there, but it's just a guide. Say it again.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Exactly.
So now, with all of this, what would a typical day look like for a child who's being homeschooled and is gifted?
Yeah. Could look like any number of things. So I just want to say the examples that I'm going to give are things that have happened in my family. I have 4 kids. Currently, they're 10, 8, 4, 6, and 4. 10, 8, 6, and 4. We're even numbers this year. And so when you think of those ages, I've gone through with my oldest, who I do believe is gifted. And I've found that she is that self-motivated. She's that autonomous learner. And so I've seen her learn to read before she was 5. I simply provided her that kind of spiraled opportunity to increase in complexity. I presented her with books. We walked through things that were difficult at the time. Believe me, there were tears, there were moments of frustration, and it was my first kid homeschooling as well. So I was learning as well. But I knew that she was capable of it. So I decided to start breaking things down. So when we hit those roadblocks, and again, I'm going to harken back to a little bit of psychology here. There's something called, I think it's Vygotsky's ZPD, yes. Zone of proximal development. Okay, so we're constantly pushing them toward that next step. If they can't make the whole step, we're going to give them a half step. If they can't make the half step, we're going to give them a quarter step. What does that look like? Our family is a multilingual family, so we're homeschooling in English, French, and Spanish. And so when we were teaching, hundreds chart, we would add 1 row at a time. And once they mastered all 10, we would move on to the next. And that was super frustrating at first because they just wanted to fill this chart. But I learned very quickly with my first that was not the right way to do it. 1 to 50, all in one go. No, thank you. Step it back and go 10 by 10. And there's so much there. So giving them helpful chunks to work with. Then figuring out ways to kind of give kids ownership. Now you're thinking, you're kidding me? I'm going to give a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old ownership?
Yes.
No.
Agency and autonomy. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. So opening those doors and giving them choice. Now, if you are one of these moms or dads, I'm going to ask you to start loosening your grip. Just make your knuckles not too flexed right now. Just open them up just a little bit. And we're going to open up those hands slowly so that by the time they're 10, like my 10-year-old, I can pretty much say, hey, check in with me when you're done with language arts. I just want to check to see what you've done. And she's done it. It's stuff like that when you've loosened the reins gradually over time, you can trust them. They know it's expected, and they know they've got all the free time in the world after they finish the work that we've started, right? So giving them choice. Maybe it's just a choice of, do you want to do this first or this first? Exactly. Do you want to write out the letters or do you want to read this book with me first? It's fine. It's a very small choice, but you're granting them that agency in their learning. Okay. Next one we want to do is that we don't want to quash. We've used that word I don't know how many times yet today, but it's one of those things that we really want to avoid because we don't want to make kids into angry, defiant learners. If we force them into workbooks and assignments that they don't love, this is a very common thing that happens with gifted kids. That's why they often get shipped out of their regular classrooms and into the gifted classroom. And if I can use myself as an example, this was me. I got angry, but I was the smiley kid who would check all the boxes as well. But then I got shipped out to my gifted classroom. Oh, we had a heyday. It was so fun. And we got to create stuff. And it was just my happy place. When I went back to the classroom, I knew I was going to be assigned the leader role. Oh, can you teach your neighbor how to do this? It was this weight. And that's not the role of the gifted kid. If you've got a gifted kid and some siblings, perhaps, who you're assigning them, give them the choice to help, not the assignment to help. Okay. Yes. They are not your co-teachers unless they want to be. Sometimes they are. Okay. So we're giving them choice. we're giving them the opportunity for discovery, and we're giving them freedom. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do this in their school day. We might start out with structure that they're used to. So we know we're going to do this first. And within this first, let's say calendar, like a morning meeting type thing with your preschooler. I'm looking down here. It's a mess. So I'm not going to show you, but it's got the 3 sections of language. So we've got our English section, our Spanish section, our French section with a calendar, the day, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, the weather, the season, all of that. My preschooler knows to expect that. And then we're going to move on into some of our blends, and she knows that she has a choice. I've just got a bag, and we walk to somewhere where the other kids are not. And then we plop down, and she brings a snack, and I bring my coffee, and it's all good. But there's a choice, there's a coziness, there's camaraderie there, and it's a team effort that we get this thing done. After that, giving them some freedom, again, with the choice, but also figuring out if there's a way that they can choose what they want to explore next. One way that we do this is if they're reading a book, we do a lot of book studies. So if they're reading a book and something sounds interesting to them, World War II or something, we're not going to be doing this with our tinies, but then they can go off and say, hey, Mom, do you know anything else about this? Like, oh, remember that time we visited Switzerland and there were like some bunkers there? Can we learn more about that? It's just jogging their memories, right? One example with my 6-year-old of this is that we were learning about coins in math. Again, we're going from our structure. Math, it happens every day. We have those boring workbooks, but it's a spiraled thing. So it's going to eventually get more and more complex. He's looking at coins and George Washington's face is on it. And he says, hey, George Washington, huh? I think we have a ruler with all the presidents on it. I'm going to go get it. He goes and gets it. Now, if I had said, no, sit down, that would have quashed it right then. Okay, go get it. Go get it. Okay, he looks at it. He starts going, okay, John Adams, John Quincy Adams. What? Are they like brothers or something? Why do they have the same name? I go, oh no, he was actually his dad. That's his oldest son. Well, he got to be president too. And I was like, yeah, small world at that point. So we're going through this. And then he starts asking questions. Are they related? We pull up a few episodes of that HBO series on John Adams. They watch that during lunch, 10 minutes max, but they're like, whoa, wigs, weird clothes. This is amazing. They're trying to kind of getting into the time period, sparking curiosity, sparking discovery, sparking that, that extra spark that we really want in their learning. Then we get into, hey, Mom, didn't you have some music about like George and John Adams and that other guy, like Alexander? And I go, oh yeah, Alexander Hamilton. So I bring up, wait for it. And we bring that into the Netflix show Song Exploder, which breaks down how a song is composed. My kids love to play piano. They love ukulele. They love guitar. So we're looking at Lin-Manuel Miranda playing chords on a keyboard on screen. And my kid goes, okay, great. Brings the laptop over the computer and starts trying to hammer out those chords. We find some good music to go along with it. So now he's playing Wait For on the piano. All this from a quarter, you guys. So all of these things that you can open the doors. Nothing is wrong with this. Nothing is out of the norm. Well, out of the norm, yes, probably. But this is something that is going to stick with him much more than just me pulling out a quarter and saying, hey, this is a quarter, it's worth 25 cents. Right?
It's so true. So
giving them the opportunity, letting those reins go, let the freedom fly in terms of what they want to study. And here's the choice part that we're going to tack on to the end here. Choice in how they show what they know.
Yes.
As they get older, we're like, essays, fill out this worksheet. There's a time and a place for that. And yes, we need to learn how to write essays. Okay. I teach that. That's my other job. But the important part here is to let them show you so that we can then, understand that they've gotten what we needed them to know. So go back to those 5 areas of giftedness. Are we always going to let them draw a picture to represent what they know? Challenge them. That's that zone of proximal development. With your gifted kids, they're often obsessed with things. Obsessions are very real in gifted kids. It might be the kid who curls up on a couch and could read for 3 hours and you're like, hey, where'd she go? She's still there. She's still there reading. She's obsessed with that book. And somebody's got to pull her back to reality so that she can get the rest of her schoolwork done. But obsessions are there. And we do need to kind of push them toward that next zone of development so that they can continue to grow. But Nurture those obsessions. When we think about being experts or being really good at something when they're older, 10,000 hours, baby, where's it going to come from? Let them start now. If they love piano, let them play piano 3 times a day, but break it into 3 chunks. Or if they want to read, give them timers. You set the timer on the phone for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll move on to the next subject, that sort of thing. Give them these parameters. These are these executive functions that our gifted kids need, sometimes more than other kids, because they need to decide, when is it okay for me to blurt out an answer and when's it not? When is it better for me to engage in a conversation? When is it better for me to ask a question or ask for clarification? So these are some of those skills that we definitely need to work on and teach. They need to be taught. So freedom, discovery, choice, those are kind of the big keywords that I want to emphasize here when we think about what a day looks like.
And I love that. What kept coming up for me as you were describing this is, it's not about breadth, it's about depth with gifted children. Like talking about your child going from a coin to everything. They were going deeper and deeper and deeper. And those are the things that stick with you, because then it creates something meaningful. And a lot of gifted children, they need meaning, and they probably need it earlier than typically developing children, who, by the time we get to high school, what does this mean? Why is this important? But gifted children are thinking deeper about whatever it is that they're, obsessed with. And so helping them to create that meaning. And I love the way you structured the day talking about different examples, because it shows how you can follow your child's lead and still, as you were talking, I was just clicking in my head, okay, so that's social studies. All right, that's math. Okay, that's arts. Like all the things you can hit, still following your child's lead and allowing them to express themselves. And, that's what I think a lot of parents are afraid of when they white knuckle it. Just like, no, you can do it. It can be done. You can hit all the things.
I think something else, and if we can go back to that curriculum conversation, I mean, people say, I share on YouTube a little bit about what we use, and people kept saying, hey, where's your social studies? Hey, where's your science? I go, it's all in there. It's all in there. It's covered. And our kids probably are more curious about it than you might think. And so a lot of that comes from just reading, having access to Libby, which is like a free app that connects to your public library, Epic, which you can form your own homeschool on there and get an educator account. Nearpod, another free opportunity to grab lots of free lessons on different topics, and kids can just explore. And so it's a matter of giving them the opportunity, teaching them how to use those tools, but giving them the curiosity. They've already got the curiosity, giving them the freedom, let's be honest, to explore that curiosity. That's important.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. This was such a needed conversation. And I hope that everyone who's watching really, you're going to get the replay, watch it again, take notes, because this is so key for young children. When we talk about getting them to have a love of learning, that curiosity is a huge component. That agency is a huge component. And people don't think about little people being able to do these things, but they are, and they're in a space in their life where they are hyper curious about everything, because everything's new. And everything's amazing. So
it is
really just presenting them with the opportunities and watching them and really leaning into their giftedness would be such a gift for them and for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you so much.